What's up, everyone? This is another segment of Dad and Keelan. So, with my special guest, Baby Keelan. So we did some testing. We posted a video, I don't know, a week or two ago, and then Keelan went out and raced the SRA, and I wanted him to provide the feedback as to what he was feeling and why we decided to retest. So, if you want to go ahead and explain in your words, kind of what happened when we tested Saturday, and then what happened in the SRA, and then what happened yesterday.
Well, Saturday we did a lot of testing on the moto track. We got the bike to where I liked it. I thought we kind of fixed this issue where I was having.
And we did move the fork tubes up and down to try and find you more front wheel traction, which is what you were looking for.
Yeah.
But you also sent some videos to who?
Cameron Pazinski.
Yep. And what did he end up telling you?
He told me my technique was off. He told me I was too far back on the bike and my ankles were dropped too low and my head wasn't in front of the bar.
But if I look at your overall body position, I'm seeing a little bit of a lack of aggression, not with the throttle, not with how fast you're going, but with what you're doing with the bike. So I watch you kind of get kicked a little bit there. And then I watch the same thing off here. I watch the bike kind of tell you where you're going. And the reason that that's happening, I'm going to freeze it right there, is body position. Here's the pegs. Okay. Foot's actually not in a bad position at all, but here's your knees. Knees should be in line or behind the pegs pretty much all the time when you're standing, especially when you're attacking a jump. Because what happens when you're not, naturally your head comes back. So if you notice, your head is actually quite behind, like your head's over the seat. It should at least be in line with the handlebars in front of it. If not, at least in line with the gas cap. I mean, we're way back here. Okay. I mean, your head should be here at a minimum, ideally here, and knees should be covering your number. Like I shouldn't be able to read your number hardly at all. Okay. So I'll explain why that's important. When you're in this position,
We went and changed. We went to baseline, and baseline was honestly not terrible. It was just a little stiff for me. It's kind of harsh. Like the forks are not moving, but we did a couple of changes. I don't know what.
So we did the testing yesterday. First, we did the on moto to get an actual moto spec. I slid the fork tubes up and retorqued all the fork bolts for him. He likes to run them a little bit like a higher torque setting. I think we're doing 22 Newton meter on the top and 18 on the bottom. I think stock is 20 and 15. So we slid the fork tubes to the third line, and he said that that was the biggest change that made the bike more rideable for him. So, and then why don't you talk about the difference in the bike setup between moto and when we did the testing in the off-road section?
So in the shock, the settings were a little bit different. They were closer than what we had in the fork, but
yeah,
in the shock I like more of a softer, faster feeling through it, so it tracks the bumps better. In the forks I want more of a what did you say? Maybe.
You did go a little bit softer, but you wanted I think you wanted more stability right out of it. So we did tighten up the steering stem bolt, and I'll have to look at the settings, but yeah, their settings aren't that different between moto and off-road, but in the off-road stuff you definitely liked the shock being a little softer and a little faster. For the high-speed compression, you actually like the low-speed compression stiffer than the baseline setting, so you wanted to kind of push, at least what I gathered from your testing, pushing more weight on the front to keep the stability there. As far as moto, I thought you looked pretty good once we got the setup. You were kind of mid-corner, you were kind of making a lot of mistakes when we first got there in practice, and then once we adjusted the fork tube setting and kind of played with the clickers a little bit, your corner speed all the way through the corner was much better, and you focused a lot on getting your body forward and hinging at the hips, right, instead of pulling with your arms, because every time you pull, you know, your arms get a little more tired. The other thing I told you is we got to focus on keeping the right hand up. You have a tendency to kind of slip on the grip, and then next thing you know, you're chicken winging it. But those are little adjustments you'll make with time, with practice and getting out there. But overall, I thought it was nice to reset and start over. You know, you really liked the setting you had you know, a couple weeks ago, but then for GP you said it was just all over the place on the track. But GP conditions are much different than moto conditions, so you have to kind of take all that into consideration. One thing I wanted you to explain, remember we were testing, you were going through that corner 180, and then you were, you know, on that straightaway and it kind of dog legs left a little bit through all that chop. You were saying that the shock felt what?
Oh, it felt wallowy.
Yeah. So I think it's good that you're learning how to kind of explain things in testing terms. Obviously I'm also trying to teach that and learn certain things myself, but yeah, you kept saying it feels really wallowy, and kind of, you said it's moving side to side a lot, and that's where we made the adjustment to the low speed compression, and then you came back in, I forget what exactly you said about the end of the road when you were going towards the street and there's a lot of braking bumps, and then that's when we adjusted the high speed compression. We actually backed it off, I believe, a quarter turn, and then after that you said it's don't touch it anymore, it's done, leave it there.
I really don't like in that straightaway, that wallowy feeling. So you enter this section and it's like a deeper sand, and like coming out of this section right before we cross the road, it's more of a hard pack, and I only really felt that wallowy feeling
coming out.
It's coming out, or going into the sand and starting that section.
So when we stiffened the shock, how much of that went away?
Pretty much like 80-90% of it went away.
Yeah. because on the straightaways when you were accelerating, the bike looked way better. I mean, we have a clip of that. I didn't get a clip before that, but you would hammer the throttle and the back of the tire was kind of side to side, whereas once we made those, you know, couple small changes, that thing was pretty dang straight, and you were on the rev limiter then going through that section, whereas before you were kind of off the throttle a little bit. But overall it looked a lot better. I'm excited to try it for GP and just make sure that you know, you're not getting all that feedback in your hands, but some of that is technique. There's only so much you can do with suspension if your technique's off, right? Like if you're out of position, your body's going to kind of, or the bike's going to beat you up because you're testing it to be in a certain area of the bike and riding a certain way, and you like to stand a lot, and then when you get tired and you start sitting, you know, the bike's going to kind of beat you down.